Hey everyone, today I'd like to share my thoughts about the new Super Novice class, specifically on the physical sword build or Furyborn, as well as just share my setup for the PvP. So after playing this class for about a week, here's what I think about the class. So number one, the character is very tanky. It has a built-in 80% damage reduction. So from the second job skill, Novice Fortitude, 30%. And then the third job, Swordsman's Mastery, you get another 50%. Then during battle, you do ramp up about 150%. 50% from the job sigil here, 10% 5 times. And then from your Nebula path, you actually have 100%, so 50% from charging your gauge, so 100 points gives you 50%. And then the damage reduction when you're getting hit, 5% for 10 stacks. Next, one of the other pros is that the skill, even though the skill tree is limited, you can actually swap and maintain the buff. So for example, before going to PvP battle, I can swap into the Axe build and then use the Novice Meltdown to get a chance to break people's weapon and cogwheels, and then also cast Weapon Perfection, which gives you 15% size damage under the Axe Nebula. The third pro is there is a lot of shared buff skills that you get from different jobs. For example, hiding, you get from thief, endure that you get from swordsman, weapon perfection that you get from the merchants, and obviously deadly poison. Even the first job skills, you have heal as well as novice recovery. So this gives a different play style to this class, where you can mix and match different skills. The fourth pros is that the charge skill for this job is one of the shortest. So for a sword build, this is the main gap closer. The range for this is actually pretty far. It's about 11 meters, which is about the same as the Guillotine Cross dash skill. So 5-second cooldown, this is actually way better than the original Swordsman charge with no global CD as well. Then for this job, you actually also have a novice teleport. So this one here is actually a gap closer as well. That's 6 seconds. And then this, this is a teleport, so that means you can actually close gaps between for Imperium Overrun. Then one of the other last pro is that you don't actually have to use element converters because there is a passive skill that you can convert into the 4 different elements. So it cycles through neutral, fire, wind, I think fire, earth, wind, and water, and back to neutral. So that's kind of the pros for the job. But let's talk a little bit about the downside, or what's bad about this job. So number one is this job relies heavily on auto attack. So auto attack is literally 100% of your base damage. 100%. You do get a double attack, which makes it ×2, and then with the cogwheel Varus skill, you can make it approximately 300%. But outside, 300% with the chance to proc, 35% chance to do extra damage. That's actually a really bad, bad damage. So outside of your burst, which you can use every 12 seconds, your damage is actually really, really low. So as with most P damage class, this class actually has pretty low ignore defense. So sitting at a passive 20 plus the accessory of 20, get plus costume and the new Skogo card deposit gets you to 50%. This means that you actually have to build quite a bit of ignore PDEF because especially with the new anima system, the people's PDEF are actually easily above 10k. So you actually have to build more ignore PDEF to catch up on the damage, which means you have to sacrifice your PvP damage bonus for it. So the last thing about this class is, even though it's an auto attack class, you actually need SP for almost everything. So for example, the charge attack, this one needs an SP cost of 30. Casting endure, this one also needs an SP cost of 20. Casting your burst also needs an SP cost of 30. So if you are actually getting, SP drain, you're actually not doing any damage because you can't even use your burst, which is where most of your damage comes from. So as I mentioned, the class is actually really reliant on burst, so there is actually no Q potential outside of your 8-second buff that you have every 12 seconds. I'm gonna just show you what the damage looks like. You basically, how you play this class is you rely on you being tanky. So from an idle 150, 530, I get up to 630, 700. So it's a lot of relying on being you tanking the opponent until your burst is up. That's where you will do a lot of damage. So one of the other main damage sources for every DPS class is your fire soul force. So once you survive long enough, you charge up your gauge, you can start using the burst damage from your fire soul force, in addition to your usual burst. Also, you notice that once my burst is up, I'm actually doing a lot of soul mark procs here, which is what I recommend for this class, because you actually rely on all the ignore defense attacks from soul mark to kill people, and you do a lot of that soul mark damage when you are having your burst up. I'll briefly share my setup for PvP for the physical sword build. So you basically have enough AGI for 500 attack speed, and you can have extra 10 to 20 depending on what you're facing up against, because there are debuffs that will reduce your attack speed, so you want to make sure that you maintain at 500 at all times. Then the rest of the skill points just goes into the strength primarily, and then luck for more crit, just because this class actually have really low crit. And then you would add everything else into dex or vit. In terms of the skill setup, you basically can use the suggested skill point at, but I'm just going to quickly show you because I might have some of the differences between what was suggested. So primarily, Novice might double attack for the first job. Second job, you would have Sword Mastery, Hiding for PvP, Endure for PvP, Novice Weapon Perfection. You don't usually cast this, just because players are medium sized, so you don't actually have a penalty. Novice Fortitude, Deadly Poison, max out your Unchained Serenade. In terms of Vulture's Eye, this actually does not affect your normal attack, but I believe this affects your charge attack, so this is where you get extra range for your charge attack. For Transcendent second job, you just level your charge attack, 1 point in Gravity Field just in case you need to stay away from the crowd while charging your gauge, and then all the passive skills, Steady Focus primarily and Teleport. Third job wise, this is very straightforward. 10 points in Swordsman's Mastery, 10 points in Thief Mastery, 10 points in your Burst, 5 points in your Heartlight, and then the rest goes into the passive skills, so with 3 points only for your CC immunity skill. For cogwheels, I like to there's a couple of them. So I like to use Omni-Chip for more, just because you're weaving between normal attacks and skills attacks. Taunting Gravity for more movement speed to chase down people. Smite Induction so that you do extra crit damage to people that you smite. The last one, ideally you would run the Spectral Virtuoso. So this one here basically curses people when they're getting hit by your Serenade or Aura. For enchants, I like to run effectively full full melee enchants. So the hat, the backwear, they're all PvP. For weapons, full melee boon, and then for your other pieces, anti-P damage, anti-M damage for your cloak. For shield, I run anti-M damage, but your sub enchants basically are all fit, just to get more HP to survive even longer. For your sigils, I would suggest running 3 defensive, and then, as I mentioned, you would definitely want to leave 1 spot for your soul mark. So, you can run, if you have red sigils, you can run other defensive red sigils like Fortress, Dawnbreaker, Fearless, Marvelous. Otherwise, you can run Gale Break. Make sure that this is actually tier 3 at 35. Don't be like me. And then, Divine Vessel, Floating Protection, Courage Blessing. these are kind of the few that you want to use for maintaining your survivability. For feathers, I would suggest, like currently I'm too lazy to change, just because I have full light and dark. But for those who are lacking in some of the light dark feathers, day feathers is definitely a very good alternative to get more ignore PDF as well. For mount equips, same thing. I run full melee defeat damage, damage versus medium, and then I have more medium damage reduction. Nexus engine, there are 3 primary skills that you want. So number 1 is the enhanced infection. This one is helps you to lock down your target, because there's a 20% chance to paralyze or immobilize them every 4 seconds. This ranged defense increases your survivability a lot, because it reduces the damage that you take outside of 7 meters every second. Then the advanced rescue, this is I believe this only affects your allies, but this is a very good skill to give, because you get additionally basically a full health shield, including the passive of the original skill. The other 2 skills you can just put in crit damage as well as Undaunted to get more P damage, or I think the other one is called Valorous, that gives you extra damage versus targets with shield. For decks, I would suggest anything defensive, so major protection, last stand, counter attack, because you're gonna get a lot of SP drain, or you can run things like Halo protection, I believe, as well as guiding light, stuff like that. So anything that you have that's a bit more defensive. Obviously, you can always use minor protection for those that doesn't have 3 purple decks. In terms of equipment, I would use Divine Armament Ymir. For armors, I'm using the Herfjotr set for more PvP stats. And for the costume things, I like to use Signal Ring, because this is one of the best in the slot for damage. You get 7% medium, dami, 10% skill, 5% skill, 10% damage versus player, and a chance to cast Water Ball, which this is very important as it helps you proc a lot more Soul Mark. For your face wear, Sinforge Mask is the best. Otherwise, for free to place, you can use the Overclocked Receiver, or if you have the Power set, you can always use the face wear from it. For mouthwear, currently there's no best in slot. I think the Wishing Gacha it's still pending for LNA, so just use whatever you can, for damage or for survivability. Backwear wise, if you have the Whale Flame Blaze, you can use that. Otherwise, Book of Oath is a very good one because of the ramp up, because you have tank and ramp up, so this actually fits pretty well. And for costumes, you can run Porous. For LNA, there's gonna be probably at some point Eternal set. You can run that, which is the best slot. Or for Popstar or any of the free to plays, you can run things like the Maple Leaf costume. For cards, running pretty standard stuff. So you just use Hydra and Skeleton Worker in your weapon. For your shield, Dara Frog or Trifling if you have the resources. Armor, I recommend Queen Medusa unless you have Angeling, just because this one stops you from getting petrified chasing down supports. For Cloak, I recommend Vagabond Wolf as much as you can, or maybe for the free-to-plays, you can run Choco Card to increase your survivability, or you can run Baphomet Jr. to increase your crit and your AGI. For shoes, definitely recommend Moonlight Illusion, 1 star at the minimum. And then for the other one, you can either run another Illusion Moonlight, or you can run a 3-star Thief Bug Veil. Accessories, I would suggest, if you have Illusion All Baron, that works as well, preferably 2-star or higher. And then you would want to run Orc Archer card because of the extra double strap, which helps you proc even more Soul Mark. Otherwise, you can run, Aether Kobolds to increase your P damage. For Helm, I suggest, Marduk to make sure that you prevent silences. Maya Purple if you're up against, people with Kraken card or people with Elise. And as well as Devi Ruchi to just prevent blind. Obviously, if you have the resource to get Orc Hero, you can use that as well. Face Wear, just a standard Goblin Puppet, or Holongren 2-star or 1-star. Same thing for the Mouthwear, Doppelganger card, or Sprocky card if you have the MVP card. Backwear, the most basic Deviling Puppet, or if you have MVP cards, Sarin cards or Thanatos card, feel free to use that as well. For the costume card, I would strongly suggest Fancy Knight instead of the Baphomet Puppet card. Overall, from my experience, for PvE, this class actually does slightly lower damage than GX. You do actually edge out on dummy tests for large and small just because of the weapon differences and the fact that you have weapon perfection. So you might actually do about similar damage with the size penalty. In PvP, as I mentioned, you do less damage with lower Q potential just because you only can kill people out within those 8-second bursts or during fire so force times. So all in all, I think it really depends on your playstyle. If you prefer much tankier build, with 7, 6, 800 damage reductions, outlasting your opponent and killing them in reverse, definitely recommend this job. But overall, don't expect yourself to be killing supports, ABs, Wanderers, and Gens, and stuff like that, just because you do a lot less damage outside of your burst or, in some sense, God mode.